Hi, my name is Seyi Ebenezer, founder and CEO at Payaza Africa.
Welcome to the African Tech Roundup, Seyi.
Thank you, Andile.
For people unfamiliar with Payaza and the space you're playing for within the broader scheme of FinTech Africa, what's trending in your world right now?
Something interesting for us is currently we're speaking the conversation of debt versus VC funding, and then we've been able to do that within our space. We're currently within Payaza Africa space. We've been talking so much more about credit rating. That's what has been trending within our space. We're trying to get a lot of people within the ecosystem to understand that they can actually do this business as well, rather than looking at VC. And then we're pushing so much conversation around profitability. That's what's been trending around our space. And the name is Payaza Africa.
Oh, did I say that wrong?
No, it's Payaza Africa. You didn't say it wrong. So
I said Payaza.
Yeah, Payaza.
Okay. Thanks for setting me straight. So listen, like most founders, planning their runway, you're looking at different funding sources in order to get this done. And by the way, we'll sort of roll the clock back at some point to talk a little bit about how you get to this point as a going concern. And some say underrated, but really, I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, you as a CEO of this business, looking at your runway plan and considering how best to fund growth. Is that the context in which you're looking at VC versus debt and pursuing credit ratings as to maybe pursuing VCs and trying to get in their wallets?
For us, and then for me particularly, over the years, I've been in corporate finance and looked at many different businesses in my days in banking and then in finance space. Before you get into a business, into a particular space, these days we look at research, we look at what is obtainable within that space. So what we did and then what I did was to look at the historical, and then looking at the historical, look at what is obtainable, and then look at the future. And then you stay in the middle and then look at the best decision to take within this space. Historical, let me go by the historical. Historical, I've seen how the .com age came into place and then NASDAQ, everything began to boom. That is historical. And then we come to the age of VC. People fund a particular growth. The funding comes in to do expansion and all of that. Historically, we've seen what has happened within that space. And then the traditional finance business, because what fintech is coming to do is just to bridge in the gap between, the traditional business and then how to consider speed as a competitive advantage. That's what's going to merge together. But what we then find out in the middle of everything is that we saw that the taste board is being checked in the sense that we are losing the sense of the ordinary conversation there, which is profitability. So while we're merging the two together,
basically.
We're looking, the fundamentals. So we're looking at, while you're merging the TPV, you're merging all of those activities, you're merging the scale. So are we looking at how profitable? Because what is going to create the value at the end goal is, if any business is not profitable, there's no reason why that business should just be alive.
Maybe the question behind my question is, I'm trying to understand whether this is a framing for a space that you are looking to headline as a space you want to serve into.
Yeah.
Or is this a space you are playing into because of your business's unique needs and growth aspirations?
What we're trying to do is our business unique, and our aspiration is to come within the space and write a different story from what we used to see.
So perhaps let's put a pin in it right there and let's start with the story so that we have the fuller context. What is the premise of Payaza as a business, and what are you looking to solve for, as you put it, that's counterintuitive or contrary to the current narrative?
So what we're trying to solve for is that we're trying to build a business out of Africa that can have a global presence. And then having a global presence with a sense of discipline in between the line. And then one of the major factors we know that create discipline is that debt create discipline from our own school of thought.
Right. So break it down. So what is the business? What's the model?
So the business model is to ensure we solve SME payment business, B2B, that is business to business. And then within the African payment space, we structure it. We ensure that within African businesses, we're able to make payment from Nigeria to Ghana, to Tanzania, to Uganda. So we solve that problem within us, knowing that predominantly SME controls our space. Let me give you the numbers. Nigeria, we have almost about 230 million population, almost about 42 million are SME. Ghana, 33 million population. We have in excess of almost about 22 million SME business. Kenya, you have 53 million population. You have almost about 36 million of them about SME. So you go to South Africa as well for 6 million like that. So we know that the SME businesses control that ecosystem, control that space. So what we're coming to solve for is that we solve the SME problem within that program. And then the major concern about SME, there are two major things. The payment, solve their payment business, and then the exposure issue. So number one about the exposure issue, that, okay, I have this thing, I'm selling within my space. Nobody knows about it internationally. So that's what we've come to solve. So we'll help you, we'll expose you internationally, and then we solve your problem in terms of payment. That's what we do within the SME space. So while we're growing that, and then we're telling that same story to them, that this is what we have done within our own space. We had in mind that as we're starting up this process, we had to put discipline involved. We had to put corporate governance. We had to ensure that the process is very streamlined, so that when we are telling the story internationally, is you can reckon with it anywhere in the world. So that's what we're solving for.
Okay, so it sounds to me that you set out to solve, and I'm just talking in clear sort of value proposition terms. You identified to service inefficiencies within payments on the African continent within the SME space. So far, correct?
Yes.
Right. And then having built a business around that, in order to finance growth through that business, I take it you have leveraged profits, correct?
Yes.
And you have leveraged some of what you're describing as positioning yourself appropriately in an international playing field in a way that will then attract partnerships, some of those partnerships through debt finance rather than VC, in order to grow the business and on your mission.
Yes, please.
Is my understanding correct?
Yeah, very correct.
So then it sounds like you've got a secondary mission now to sort of translate that playbook to businesses on the continent who probably don't realize that there's only one way to grow. And most of those people are looking for finance through equity.
Yeah.
And so your argument would be, if I'm understanding you correctly, take a leaf out of our book, position correctly, bring some discipline into your practices, and bring yourself to the point where you can, like us, land these incredible credit ratings. A whole world of value unlocks to you in a way that you currently are seeking equity as perhaps the only path to growth.
Yeah. So let me do a diverse to this conversation. I'm not saying 100% equity is not a very good playbook. Equity is good, but equity is sweet or very presentable when you have done debt efficiently.
Okay.
Then it will be easy because you have done this with your own funding. You've created that process, you created that procedure. Because before you can even access a solid debt, there must be a very solid process and procedure. Case in point, if you approach any commercial bank, they'll tell you there are 5 C's to credit, collateral capacity, conditions, all of those things. So you have to meet all of those before you can even have access to that same debt we are talking about. So it talks about your character formation as a business up to that level. I'm not saying 100% that equity is not good. Equity is fantastic. You can get, because there's little to watch what debt could do. So you have to get other partners and everything to grow the business. Part of equity plays for listing and all of that. So that is fine. But what we are saying essentially is that there are various forms to this. Because what we tend to see within the African system is that once we see a particular model that works, everybody goes along that model without saying, okay, fine, let us create another model. Let's be innovative around this model. What about the model that is being used before? Because most of the banks start up on, okay, how are we going to churn out profit? How are we going to do this process properly? So that's what we are trying to create the balance in between, okay, fine, equity and then in terms of debt. So that's the middle play that we're trying to say, that while we're chasing equity, you can start up a business. Case in point, if profitable now, it's easy for me to tell my story to an equity player that, see what I've done. This is what I need to do. So you can show the path.
Who do you think needs to hear this the most in your view right now?
Okay. In my view, I think we, within our ecosystem, within our age brackets, we need to start, because if you look at the top businesses in Africa now, likes of Dangote, Boa, Strive, and lots more, So if you look at a whole lot of them, they build the business to a certain level. So for the sort of us that are coming after them, because in 10 to 20 years time, they will have built the business. So they expect to hand over to our own generation. So we need to start building that understanding from this process, that it's not 100% that we need to play a lot of equity. We need to create a lot of discipline, corporate governance. As we are innovating, we have to infuse that into all of our business and ensure that we tell that story in a proper way.
How early does that start, do you think? I mean, someone listening to this is maybe where Aliko Dangote was, in his first 3 years, but one day hopes to be a version of successful that he is today. When do you start to practically apply this sensibility to how you might practically walk away from listening to this conversation and go start?
From the inception of the business, you must have that mindset, because it's a structural mindset. If you don't have that mindset, I'll pick a case for us at Payaza. When we're starting, while we're still building the technology, we've onboarded Deloitte as our audit partner.
From day one?
From day one. Most of the big four have their own arms that cater for SME, you don't necessarily need to have so much to approach them. All you need is just to share your document, and then they take you through. As our compliance audit as well, they are part of it. From the get-go, you know that this is the playbook. Like the Bible tells you, whosoever that wants to build a house, you first of all do the costing. So from the get-go, you will know what you want to do.
So Seyi, counting the cost, as the Bible says, let's talk about you for a second, because I think we're getting to the crux of how a conversation like this might actually serve someone listening, from the moment they end, they press pause or end the conversation. How is it that you approached business with that mindset? What was your background? Because for a lot of people, there's a lot of product focus. There's a lot of focus on creative innovation. There's a lot of storytelling that's oriented towards landing the investment that allows them to sort of iterate very quickly. There's not a lot of conversations about some of what you're describing as necessary to basically make a path to sustainable and profitable enterprise as a bootstrapped entity, as I'm told you are. So where does that come from? Where is it your training? Was it your background? How is it you came to business with that mindset?
It comes from training. That's number one. It comes from how you start. I started my career for KPMG. KPMG then moved to Access Bank.
So you're already kind of oriented somewhat towards, compliance,
reporting, and then getting into the finance space. And one of the things, no matter how innovative, no matter how intelligent, no matter how smart you are, you have to subject yourself to some level of training before you can then begin to handle some business, because it's definitely going to show, no matter how smart, intelligent, and innovative, you have to go through that corporate structure, learn the whole process, and then go through it. So that will translate into your business, because more of what we're doing at Payaza today, and most of the structure and the things I've learned, were the things I've learned within the days when I was in Access Bank. As in, these are things that I've learned. Okay, I've seen the bank run a structure like this, the normal structure it should be done. These are the processes, these are the procedure. As the bank has this international feel, does it understand this level of excellence? Does it understand the level of priority? Things that should be put in place. You can't just jump out of probably from our institution, or jump out of uni, jump out of any tertiary institution and then get into a business and you believe you understand the structure. So more of all of the structures have come from what I've learned within my years of working within different enterprise and taking a personal accountability for what I've seen that worked. So you look at what worked there, what did not work, how it was done, the things that were done, and then what give the operation. So when you are now setting up, the amalgamation of all of those knowledge and what you have put together will really, really help. And then looking out for mentors, and that's sorted. That was what formed my opinion.
So KPMG, it sounds like, definitely lets you into structure from an audit perspective. You also start to know the kind of things that register as trustworthy and compliant and well put together, well presented, as far as like a financial story starting to come together. Where would you have gotten, and it sounds like perhaps it's your time at Access Bank, but maybe other places, where would you have gotten the entrepreneurial creativity to solve for the payments issue, which is really, I suppose, a tech play? It almost sounds like, based on a lot you've said so far, you're almost an unlikely tech founder. Like I would have expected you to end up starting maybe a cement business or something in manufacturing or FMCG or something where, again, the fundamentals, it's a kind of already a fundamentals led space. Tech and VC backed tech generally isn't always led by those sensibilities. So how is it, like, where would you have gotten those sensibilities or someplace else?
Yeah, so I give you full 100% credit to Access Bank. So I got all of that at Access Bank.
Really?
Yeah, because the person that worked, the late Herbert Wigwe was, as in, contributed 100% to that whole ideology and everything. I see how the bank is being run, and then the entrepreneurial spirit, work with him, and that is 100% where I got the whole entrepreneur journey from.
What did you see?
So one of the things I see that is when my days in the bank there was, you tend to see that there is nothing impossible within the bank. As in, once we set up our mind to a particular target achieved, and then I've seen the history of the bank from number 69 grow to number top 1, top 2 within the space, and how the bank is bullish, how things are transformed, how everybody's involved within the process, what we send, the speaking of the excellent, even up to today, the bank is still talks about excellent, as in is top notch in everything that you do. So that really speaks to my mind that if I'm going to start up anything, I look at the whole finance space, because obviously my background is corporate finance. There are two sides that speak to finance. Interest income talks about loans and all of those things. Non-interest income, these are the fees and commission. And I look at what is obtainable within the space. I see that interest income, there's so much volume, as in almost about 2.3 billion USD of interest income. As in the non-interest income, almost about 225 billion USD. I'm talking about the African market, non-interest income. As in non-interest income, these are fees, commissions that you charge from payment and all of that. And then all my life I've done interest income, I've done loans. There are side effects to loans and everything. Side effects to loans are, you have bad debts, people are not paying back, you have impairments and all of those. So then I ask myself the question, so which side do I want to play? Do I want to play on the side of interest income? Do I want to play on the side of non-interest income? Non-interest income in the sense that these are fees, these are where fintech and everybody play. So that formed my entrepreneurial journey. Okay, fine. Non-interest income in the sense that once I take the fee, there's no need for reversal except you have chargebacks. So then I'd rather play this side is very safe with my little capital that I'm starting up this business with. So if I'm starting off a business with a capital, okay, fine. If I go to the side of interest income, I can give out a facility, I can give out a loan that would then turn bad, probably after checking all the conditions and everything, then the funds is gone. So then I'd rather start from the known, which is non-interest income, where I can take fees, I can take commissions, I can do all of that. That speaks to the fintech space, where I then start as a finance person that, okay, if I take this fee, solve a problem within this ecosystem, then I can take this fee, I can actually earn my real profits within this space. And then what did we do? What we did is that if at the early stage, if we onboard a merchant and the merchant is not profitable, we're able to ascertain our AWS cost. We run an activity-based costing model. If we onboard a merchant, we charge. So because we know that pricing war is a race to bottom, so we now play on the part of efficiency. That if we onboard you, and then we say that based on our costs, we are not profitable, we just write you seamlessly that we'll not be able to do business with you. Then we just only deal with people who we can always break even. At worst scenario, we make a margin. So by so doing, we're building the business gradually, not as fast as you should be. We don't have so much fund for adverts, all of those things, acquisition of customers. So we're building it on efficiency. But one thing that we promise those merchants is that if you process with us, we have an uptime 99.9. We settle you instantly. We give you your fund as a window rather than what is obtainable T+2, T+3. So that's what the model we started with. So we stayed on the path of efficiency. So while we have some of these merchant process with the bigger team who can give them all of those services, then they give us almost about, say, 20 or 10% of their business. So we now start building it gradually from efficiency, or then keep pushing all of this, because we have the end goal in mind that what we are playing is an efficiency game. We can't play a price war, because if you play a price war without having an equity play, you can't win.
I mean, that sounds like neobank vibes. It sounds like your entrepreneurial outlook, it was effectively a banking play. It wasn't so much
Of a
trying
fintech.
a fintech to solve a pain point in a process. You always set out to effectively to do banking. It sounds like, right?
Yeah. It sounds like that because we are moving towards that process as well. But we are moving towards that line. But it's still a fintech. But I came from as in truth be told, came from a full banking background. If you check my profile, I've done banking all my life.
That's what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to get to the like what would have set you of all the things you could do with the makeup you have, your background in audit, your time in banking, of all the things you could have done entrepreneurially. In the way we opened this conversation, I mean, you're obviously passionate about, like, you call it discipline, structure, profitability has come up. This idea of basically growth on fundamentals, this comes a lot. So someone in that, so it was really just interesting for me to kind of think about rewinding back to when you launched this business, what mindset was projected into what it's now become. And it sounds like from the beginning, you had a neobank outlook.
I'll say yes. I'll say no. I'll tell you no first because I look at the space and I've seen that because I've been in finance. I look at the historical of finance. I know the 2008, how everything crumbled, rush, and all of those issues came down. And it was because there's a rush on a particular trend. 2008 was when you see the stock market, everybody was, it was just a sort of bubble. 2008, the share price were on top. Everybody was playing the equity game. It was just
speculation galore.
Speculations. Everybody was just running on the speculation, building different speculations, and then
listings for days.
Listing for you can just see somebody as a mom and pop shop without any proper structure, just
ringing the bell,
and then ringing the bell. The price just jump. Bah, then this price just jump, bah, this price jump. So that is what the trend had happened. Then that trend became unfashionable. I now look at it again when I'm setting out that there's a trend on this VC and another part again. If we go this route, we are going to lose the taste of why we are in business. There are major reasons why anybody goes to do business. You wake up today, you want to do business to make profit. The businesses that survived 2008 had that structure. They are fundamentally secure. They put their processes in a very good way. Their documents are proper. Their finances are proper. Though they might be part of the speculations, but when the speculation hits home, they have the buffer.
Mm-hmm. That's just market chatter. But fundamentally, you're a business, you're a going concern.
Fundamentally, yes. So going concern is intact. So they have this. So we don't want to be using finance terms so that we break it down for any other. So what we then see recently that then happened is I just see this VC raise this fund, raise this, raise that. I said, no, we can't go this way. We are going to get our fingers burnt just like what had happened 2008. Mm-hmm. So we have to begin to create a middle ground whereby while we're chasing that equity, that we're chasing the VC, while we're chasing all of that, let us begin to build this structure because knowing fully well that Africa is the next big thing. So it is constant. 1.6 billion population, young adults, and all of those things. So if we are going to be that relevant and push those conversations, we need to start building that structure now for the next 10 or 15 years. Because when people are now then going to come and beginning to look for us, because obviously they are going to come and they are not going to be talking to myself, they are not going to be talking to different founders, they are going to be requesting for our books. You can write anything in PR, do all of it, but prepare the book.
So tell me, when does Payaza launch? Give us a year.
We started building since 2020, but we launched in 2022 March.
Ooh, via the grapevine, I'm told you would have said no to a lot of money that would have been quite bullish on backing a founder profile like yourself and an idea like yours.
Now, we did say no to a lot of people.
Talk us through what navigating that space was at a time when the smart money, quote unquote, the smart money, all the biggest interest, all the biggest money trying to chase the few brightest ideas.
Yeah, so we got about 6 or 7 people that approach us. But I had to tell my team that if you trust me very well, I had to, as in this same narrative that I was explaining was what I took them through the journey of the historical. So I look at, okay, this is the historical of finance. This is what happened at this particular time. It's tends to the in economic cycle, you see the recovery, trough, and all of this. So I had to take them through so my C guys, I said, let us try as much as possible. Do this thing patiently and then go through this process properly.
So what does that mean? Does that mean you're using your own money?
Using our own money. One of the major things that we did was that most rather than, ride on this to build this infrastructure, get this one. So let us take our time to build this, get the engineers that we can get on board. Let's begin to build our payment infrastructure in-house. We'll be taking the time, the little fund for those who have the patience that can wait with, that can earn the salary that we are ready to pay. Because if you look at the workforce within that period, people are earning 2x, 3x. But for the people that can wait, that believe in the vision, that believe in what we are set out to do, this is what we have, and we can only pay you in a local currency. This is what we can pay you. This is what we can, but this is what we are selling out.
Sure.
Then let us build this thing in-house. It's a tough sell, but it's a conviction. And why do they believe me? It comes from the historical, because for some of these guys, we've worked together in the bank and they've seen, okay, this is what I've been able to do. This is the character formation that this guy had shown us. Okay, in this particular year, he told us, work with me. This is what is going to happen. And then it happened that with them. So most of these people could believe what I'm telling them, that if we do it this way, then it will work out. Then you have shown them that this is what can happen if we do this. And then if 1 year and what you have said doesn't happen, then they can always press Ctrl Z. But they've seen that all of these things that we've been able to apply, as in working month on month, year on year, and then they see it play out. And then the discipline starts from myself sharing the vision.
And talk me through how that's evolved to what your current offering is today.
Okay, the first product we brought to market, we ever launched, we call that product branches. You don't need any network, you don't need anything to just run the service. We call it branches because as of that time, we say that, okay, people have a failed transaction on POS. Then rather than going to the bank, they will go and meet the customers. The customers will refer them to the bank. And then the bank will say, okay, fine, your money is with it. They've not done the reversal. They've not done this. Then we build that product called branches. Branches in the sense that, let me use for our first merchant. Kudos to him today. He's been my customer for over the years, Petrocam. So Petrocam was our first merchant.
Oh, wow.
So they came on board. So what we did was that for all of their 57 filling stations in Nigeria, what we did was that we deploy our branches there. Then there's a particular source at the head office who can view the branches collection at a spot. So branch A cannot view branch B's collection. Branch C cannot view branch D collection. So we then create the center omnichannel at the HQ where it can be deployed across board. So when you go to the filling station, we create a started account where you do their transaction. It's either successful or failed. So we told them that we are doing no chargeback solution for them. And they tried it out the first very week. Then it worked. They say that the level of complaint within their gas station has reduced. So that's the ever first one. So we're able to build them, charge them properly for all of the solution. So number one, a resolve two issues for them. Accounting issue. Number two, a resolve theft issue. Accounting issue, what am I saying? Reconciliation, settlement, and that. So at the end of the day, the group CFO can have his own balance at once at a standstill. Then just know, okay, fine, this branch A, branch B, branch C, just do the summation. Instead of staff strength reduced rather than having to finance people at each gas station. So that resolved completely. So that's the first major solution that we brought out. And then we begin to build on it.
Would you have delivered that profitably, or do you remember taking that or just breaking even?
Actually, we had to deliver that profitably because this is solving a problem for them and we're charging them to what our own cost and then putting up a margin. I think as of that time, we're charging them, I might not be able to say the amount online, but we're charging them to solve that problem and it's solving a big problem for them. So it was quite profitable for us that meet up our operating expense during that period. So our expense there, and then that was solved. So we're not incurring cost on buying them devices. They have an existing device within their space. So all we are providing is the solution, which is the e-solution for them. We create a started account. We partner with an existing bank. We solve their problem. The bank charges us X amount. We put our markup on it and then their volume, because it's a volume business. Gas station is a volume business. So on the multiple, so we just got that. We got 1 or 2 or 3 of them within that space then. We're meeting up our monthly expense per time.
And so did that immediately unlock recurring revenue, or was that a conversation you could only have once you build trust with a client like that?
Once you solve that problem, then the customer is going to tell someone else that, I think this is where I'm solving my problem from. then you get to solve the problem for another person. Then as you solve the problem within that ecosystem, you are solving for another ecosystem as well. Then you begin to get that referral. As you begin to get it, the major thing about the referral is the efficiency. What you promised, ensure that is what you deliver. If you can try that, then you don't need to spend so much on the marketing within that space. But then you are going to have a thin margin, very thin profit, but you'll be able to solve your operating expense.
Right.
So you solve your operating, so you might not be able to do the bigger things like, have a very huge office, have a just, but you then, so more or less when we started them, as CEO, I'm doubling up as a chief salesperson, I'm having, as in customer experience, I'm the one handling almost about 6 roles on me, and then CTO as well, doing same CTO, do Q&A, they do front end, back end. So we had to mobile up roles together to ensure that we manage cost. So we can run on a huge scale, just like any other person that have the funding.
So playing devil's advocate, as far as there's a crowd of people who would say, well, when you get a banker / accounting background type person doing entrepreneurship or innovating, you'll get very safe, slow and steady stuff. But what Africa needs is big and fast and courageous and brave and mavericks. You don't sound like one to me. So what would you say to someone who is quietly listening to us and going, impressive, sure, fundamentals focus, I can buy that, but maybe this is not the guy to get us to Mars?
No, on the contrary, we have that. But one of the things that we did was that we need to build our consciousness first before. Now we are very bullish. Recently, we are going to the market for about 150 million USD, as in we're doing bully, but we need to, first of all, before we get to that maverick, moonshot, all of that, we need to build that structure so that when the structure is built, you can do anything on that. That's what we did. Not that we don't have that, as in I've worked at Access Bank, as in there's nobody, if you know Late Herbert Wigwe very well, this is a man, as in they call him the fearless one. So I can't work in that space. And
so you're saying don't mistake what are the moves, the deliberate way we're moving for tentativeness or a fearfulness. It's a systematic, strategic bullishness, actually, it sounds like you're saying.
Yeah. I was on a call yesterday, interestingly, with a big name trying to get involved in our business. And I told them that we are price giver. We are not price taker again.
So this is a potential investor, and you're like, listen.
Yeah, potential investor. So I don't do that type of, because, the reason why you could say that is that evidence terminates argument. So you can present your book. You've shown so that with what I have been able to do with fund that we have, this is what we've played. This is what we've been able to achieve. So tell me what you are bringing on board.
Okay.
So if you cannot do this, then don't let us waste our time. But as in most of the investors meeting I have, as in you then cut the short. If you start with this model, you will be a price giver. You will not be a price taker. So you must be in a position where you are very comfortable and you're able to talk, and then you can sleep with your 2 eyes closed. So this is what the consciousness will give you initially. Then it will look like, you don't know what you're doing. You don't understand the process. But just take your time gradually. You can you have a playbook I call it a playbook of 5 years. First 2 years, conservativeness. The third year is going to be a pressure on you. You're going to lose a lot of money. The fourth year, you are going to boom. The fifth year, everybody start talking to you.
So product is evolving over this period for you. Applying this model and this framework you've just put out there. You start with Petrochem. Then what? How do you think about like a product roadmap for how you might, I suppose, scale what's working, but also grow into maybe new areas and innovate?
The structure with us is that any product that is not profitable, we have to shut it down. So we don't do R&D. So once we build the product and we say that this product is not profitable, we look at it has a lifespan. It's not profitable. Please, let's just shut it down. Then,
how long do you give it?
Our product time, based on our risk assessment criteria, is 6 months. Once we have the product, the first 3 months we check, probably stability. At the end of the fourth month, if it's not growing, at the fifth month, so it's not 6 months. Let's not deploy the cost. Let's focus on the ones that work.
And how do you incentivize coming up with great ideas and backing them with your full chest in your team? Because in some places, that sort of failure is, it didn't work out, buddy, there's the door.
No, everybody at Payaza, we built something that we call more or less like we're a family-owned institution. So you can build something tomorrow and then it doesn't work, and then something
So it's a safe place to not let things work out.
It's a safe place. So everybody, we are family. And first of all, we're staff focused first. You can do anything to me. You can go scot-free. But if you touch my colleagues, my staff, then I go after you. We're together. We build ourselves together. So we're very big on ourselves. So we have 4 major criteria, to hire. And then one, which you speak, number 1, young people, as in at least you must be younger than me. You have young people that love God. Whatever God you're serving, you must show that you love, because I love my own God. And then you must know how to make money, because that's a key thing. They can move you from product to any skill, any other. So you don't have a particular skill set for years, so we can change you within performance management, all of those things. And then you must be trained. You must know how to at least dress, you present yourself very well. And then what we don't do at all is that, which you can be let go within our institution, that we don't do well with proud people. So and which is the reason why it worked with us. That if peradventure you build something that didn't fail, so it's a sense of pride because somebody did something that didn't fail, then you now just know. We don't do it. If you show an iota of pride or anything, we exit you from our system anytime, any day.
Oh, wow.
So we believe that even though if it doesn't work, you are still here, you can build something. Let's keep going very well together. And then since we understand that, okay, this one big family we are building. And then as we're building, as we're growing, I thought year 1, year 2, year 3, we didn't see anybody. At year 4, they started hiring. A lot of people started hiring people from us.
By the way, how big is the team now?
We're quite big, about 185.
Are they all based in Africa, or are they spread?
No, global.
So in terms of your current portfolio, your service offering, again, using what you initially launched with as a point of departure, what would surprise Seyi back then, serving Petrochem, about the current portfolio of value that you currently offer? What would surprise him and why?
It's a huge surprise from that, because I looked at the numbers then and see what has been able to build. And then it just validates most of the things that I've thought about, what I've seen, what my mentors, what I've seen within the industry. As in, it's a huge surprise. Not just, it's a huge amusement to me.
Yeah. So what would you point to as, like, in terms of like an innovation or a product development element that you would never have thought was possible back then?
Yeah, it is a huge innovation. There's a big time, as in things have changed very.
So what changed?
What changed really now is that people have considered speed as a competitive advantage now. As in, before you conclude a product, somebody else has launched it somewhere else. I think what is obtainable now is that as you're ideating the product, ideate it with the full process in mind. Ideate it so that as you're launching the product, you must have a TQM, as in this total quality management, at once. Because if you get it wrong, just lose that product. Somebody else picked up that product and have gone with it. This is not a period for guessing and doing anything again. No, you can't be guessing like this year. Then you can tweak, you can do other things. But as you are moving this period, once you are launching, before you must have your head in the right place before you launch any product. If you launch it and you have teething issue before, then just you don't need that product again. Someone else has picked, and then because there are people who have done much more better than that, because the speed at this particular period is very huge, and then is unfathomable.
So what are you headlining as far as product at the moment?
So one of the big things that we have currently now, we call it Payaza Give, is we use it for different churches, different bodies, music, to do payment now. So we use Apple, Google Pay, and everything. It's just a link. So let's say, Andile, you're doing collections probably for a music festival or anything. So you just have Andile on the web itself. So all forms of payment, to USSD, US in digital asset, everything, all forms of payments in one link.
Wow.
And it got a huge adoption. The adoption is quite very huge.
And so what does that say about how you frame your business in your own mind, but maybe to the market? Would you call that a B2C success or a B2B success?
No, B2B, because like I told you, we have a risk assessment criteria for every of our business. So we look at what we can take, the risks we cannot take. So our expertise now, we cannot handle most of the B2C. So we rather onboard the B2B, then they deal with the risks of the B2C, because we look at that. So that's our risk profile. So we know that, okay, fine, for this business that we're onboarding, we know everything about the business. We can defend the business. We know what they are doing. We can provide their proof of fund. We can ensure that. So what they are now doing with their own merchant, that we don't know. But for our profile, so we can say we're a successful B2B company that can defend what we are doing.
Okay. So when you say adoption, you're talking less about the product market fit of the end user and more about how successfully the products you have developed are serving the needs of your B2B clients.
If it solves the business problem, automatically they are definitely that the B2C are very happy.
Actually, the reason I'm saying this, the reason I don't think it's intuitive is I think that's a big part of the VC sensibility. There's growth to the user, whether or not it's a profitable thing. And so I think there's a lot of bubble talk around, say, ChatGPT as an example. It's definitely ubiquitous, lots of users, barely 5% I've read or less than of all ChatGPT users are actually paying for premium. So it is nowhere near being break even or profitable as a business. And yet in VC terms, in value R, you'd say that's a really strong business, or that's a strong brand, or a great startup, and, or whatever the framing is. I'm just trying to understand how you frame success in your world.
ChatGPT model is a different model from the business, because if I say ChatGPT is a huge success, if you look at their financial projection over time, their financial projection shows as in with the number of users that they have, which is B2C. So it's definitely, so the model for B2B in terms, if you are going to valuation B2B, you can model B2C like B2B. B2B must be able to say, okay, fine, what's the total number of business am I going to do to give me profitability? B2C, we need that, because at the long run, B2C, if the adoption is great, you don't need anything to churn out profits. There is no how. Because if the adoption is good and the pricing model is good, it will turn out profitable within a period of time, with the level, because you can forecast that, okay, fine, if I onboard 3 or 6 or 7. So it depends on the financial model they are running on B2C. But in B2B, the same numbers, you must say, okay, fine, these are number of businesses, this is the number of transactions they must do. So they have a more or less direct impact. So I can tell you the model for ChatGPT is very correct. Awesome, great. And then almost everybody, I pay for premium, almost everybody pay for premium on it. And then it's just a matter of time, and then the cost inclusion. And then the only thing that we don't know, whatever the cost is. So if they work on their costs, and the major thing about business being profitable is that you look at two major things. Look at your cost, and then sometimes look at your expense line, and then how you can be efficient within those two things. Obviously, people will turn out revenue. So the only truth you have to be told is that within the operating expense space, know what are the highest costs. What can you do to optimize all of those costs, and then to look at how you are going to run efficiently within that space.
So Seyi, it sounds like you're a proponent for what it looks like to build with a fundamentals-led sensibility, fairly conservatively upfront, to set up infrastructure that enables you to unlock hyperscale, hypergrowth potential a little later on. Correct me if I'm wrong, that might be a message more African founders, entrepreneurs need to hear in light of the lack of structure and maybe historical sort of gap in discipline around building from scratch that our markets, because they're lagging in many ways, currently feature. But at the same time, it's also true that you can't entirely demonize a VC-led outlook that takes on risk and maybe doesn't focus as much on building in that structure up front in favor of trying to build fast and capture value and basically use VC capital to achieve that speed at the same time. I feel like there's a tension there, and there's a spectrum of effort, and without being prescriptive, these are things that all entrepreneurs need to think about.
So, like I told you, there are two sides to everything. There's a great value in the VC space. There's a great value in the other space as well, like bootstrap and equity, all of those. But finding a balance is one of the very, very critical things. And then coming from Africa, the way we are positioned, there's a natural prejudice rating on Africa. So that we must now, having that in mind, we must then do things differently. because we already at a disadvantage initially.
And I completely understand. And I'm actually glad you're bringing this up. There's a contending with the reality of how we're perceived as a continent, the realities of how difficult for many reasons it is to launch and successfully sustain a business in Africa, especially one that has an outlook to serving the rest of the world. And you're saying, in light of those realities, you can't afford to try and approach life like Sam Altman.
Correct.
Uh-huh.
So you have to find a balance. Someone in the West, anybody can do all of those process and then go away with it. We've all went to business school. We read the case of Amazon in the first 4 years, all of those business, everywhere they were not profitable. But trust me, you can't try that. Okay, let me give you an instance. Let me give you an instance. If you read...
Are you telling young Africans not to dream?
No, we can dream. It's good for us to dream. Okay, see, I want to give you an instance. Case in, but I don't know what probably you read recently that Fitch withdrew Dangote's credit rating.
Oh, yeah.
Why
so he's only Africa's wealthiest man.
So he's Africa's wealthiest, and he's been creating value for years. So why should somebody touch such a...
No, downgrade him, Seyi, of course.
No, they withdraw. So that's what we are talking about. So if they could touch Dangote, so who is Seyi that they could not? So do you understand? And so
who are we?
That's what we're talking about. So we must tend then to do things differently.
What a great segue to wrapping up, because I'm looking at some of the things your team sent over in helping me grapple with the fundamentals of your business and what makes it conspicuous that very few people have heard about you. We don't see too much about Payaza or about you personally in public discourse, certainly VC and African tech startup coverage. That might be in part because you've been happy to work in stealth, or maybe not doing ecosystem engagement sufficiently. So I'm not going to blame anybody. But the fact is, given what we hear about you and what those in the know who are familiar with the investment worthiness of your proposition and who are in on the funds you're trying to raise, what I hear stacks up with what your team shared with me. It's things like being a visa processor in sub-Saharan Africa, which is a fairly tenuous thing to acquire, just a technical partnership with one of the world's biggest, call it mega fintechs. There's your various credit ratings you might have mentioned at the top of the show, Augusto Co, DataPro and Moody's, whatever we all think of the global monopoly on credit ratings and those things, which is a separate conversation worth having, I think. It's quite telling that you have subjected yourself successfully to being evaluated and rated fairly positively by these entities. There's commercial paper you've raised. In your world, being bootstrapped means you have taken zero VC.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Not a dime.
No, not a dime. No VC.
I share that, closing the loop on how we opened, and though you had this little manifesto statement about your desire to see more African businesses espouse the level of structure, discipline, focus on fundamentals early on. That puts them in a position to pull a stunt. It's not an overnight stunt, but it's a stunt relative to how we're accustomed to hearing about fintechs and startups in this space. Your heart, it sounds, is for more businesses to put themselves in a position where they can embody a similar set of results and expressed going concern at a certain point in their future, if they focus on this now. And I want to invite you to make a case for that by helping us all understand, one, what it took to land these success points and what it's putting you in a position to do as a business in terms of your prospects and where you're taking the business that would have otherwise been impossible or completely unheard of. What does it take? Is sitting here with a notebook, waiting for you to drop the actionables that help them replicate what you've done. But there's also someone sitting here going, is it worth it? Is it worth the trouble? And hopefully you can answer both.
Okay. So number one, is worth it. That's what I would tell anybody who is listening. It's because it's going to, like I was giving an instance, that we're now a price giver, not a price taker. So your negotiating power is very huge, and then you walk to the room knowing fully well that you know what you're doing by the help of God. You have your things done. So your confidence is very intact. So either they are there or not there, you have access. So nothing, you've built the business to the extent that even though there are things that can shake the business, but you know that, oh, fine, you can have access. All you need to access capital market debt is just 2 credit rating.
So you're saying access to capital you need to grow is now...
Yeah. It's just you need 2 credit rating within your ecosystem. So within our ecosystem, you need 2 credit rating. If you have 2 investment credit rating, you can have access to capital markets. So to get debt without collateral, short-term funding that you can use to run your business.
Shay, you just got someone's attention. Someone was sleeping until this point in the conversation.
No. So
do you understand? So now they're listening.
all you need is just 2 credit rating. Once you have 2 investment credit rating, and then if you look at the credit rating, so you can do an investment class. So if you look at you issue your credit rating, there's long-term rating, there's short-term rating. Long-term rating is for anybody issuing bonds and guarantees, all of those things. They will use the long-term rating. So for short-term rating, they use your short-term funding. So short-term funding is commercial paper. Commercial paper longevity is 270 days. So if you have a short-term rating, which is an investment grade, so you can as well go to an issuing house, and then they put the product and everything together for you. Then you can have access to that. But how are you going to get those 2 credit rating? So how you are going to get those 2 credit ratings?
Sorry, Shay, before you tell me about how, what has accessing that commercial paper done for you and your business?
So those things, when we started the conversation of doing instant settlement, because there's little to watch, because fintech, we're limited to T+2, T+1, even if you do POS T+1, T+2, but we are running a velocity business. You tend to see every other day, and then the trust that an average business will have in you is not up to the trust they have in the commercial bank. A commercial bank might not settle them 5 days. They don't care. If you as a fintech, you don't settle them within 2 days or 3 days, they're everywhere.
They took my money.
They took my money, everything. So you have to work on that. And then the more you do, the more, because the velocity business we run, so the more so that's how much you can make within your space. So what we then tend to do initially, I told you we started by doing the efficiency game by settling same day. We're using our own fund. When people begin to see that this thing is sweet and then they're enjoying the process, then the pressure is now on us. Yeah, because our volume then tends to grow. Then what we then to go and do, okay, fine, because we've run this thing profitably, we show some little, not so huge profit, but an issuing house, a credit rating agency, they've seen that, if this thing is like this, and is at this price and is profitable, if we do it by 200, it's going to be then profitable. Then we're able to get all of those. And they've seen, if you're going to meet a credit rating agency, your corporate governance must be intact. You can't negotiate that. That is not bought.
Yeah.
And corporate governance talks to 2 things. Number 1, listening. Number 2, did you subject yourself to a higher authority? That's a summary of corporate governance.
Now you're answering the question, which is, okay, so how did you get there? So what did you subject to? I called it pain because I have a sense of what it might have taken to arrive at some of these outcomes. But what are you talking about? What does it mean to subject yourself? I heard humility in an earlier thing you said in a completely different context, but I sense that it has a place here.
No, you have to subject yourself to a high, because you must have people who, you can't select a board that you are the one that control them. No, you have to have a board that they are the one, as in with their phone call, that, okay, you can't mess up. These people, they can't mess you up. They are going to be there to guide you. They will talk to you. You have to listen. You have to present the right thing to them. So those are the kind of board. That's the first thing. Any credit rating.
So governance, what does your board look like?
So your board will say, what are your committees? You must have stringent committees. So not just, board chairman design. So in that board, you must have sub-board. You have finance committee, the risks committee, the compliance committee. So all of those committees have things to play within your structure. So those are not about profitability. Those are not anything. So those are one rendering ideas. So all of those structures have to be in place so that when you are even approaching, and then the primary thing is that you have to subject yourself to an auditor who cannot be biased. Our first year of audit, almost about 60 something exception. you'll be galloping up and down. Then you have to then begin to handle it. Okay, fine. You cannot.
Did you regret it?
No, you definitely regret it first time, because why did you jump into it? Because they are going to ensure they will treat you, as in pull you out, pull you here. Then you begin to, so you have those exceptions. They'll give you in your audit report, you have to resolve this within this time frame. Then you begin to put all of those processes involved. So that is those are two highest points. And then the third, obviously, if you control all of those parts, then profitability is just a small mark. Then they look at the whole ecosystem. You can't be rated more than the country of origin. So your ecosystem even contributes to your rating.
What are you saying, Seyi? If you had built this business in LATAM or in Southeast Asia, I'm not even using a Western market, but you had done exactly the same thing. You had posted the same results performance-wise. You had done all the things you've mentioned. You're telling me your valuation would be a very different story, and your access to finance, your credit ratings would be completely different.
Yeah, which is the reason why I was saying initially that as African, we must stay in between. We cannot go more of the VC. We cannot go more of the equity. We must stay in between, so that, because there's a prejudice written on us initially. Let me give you an instance. If you look at the interest rate that is given to African business, interest rate is considered as a high risk, and then the interest rate on it is very, very high. But contrary, if you just pick up, there's a World Bank report I read like last month or thereabout. Our repayment on infrastructure funding, Africa is number 2. Our default rate, Africa is number 2, in the sense that number 1 is Middle East at 0.9. We are highly bankable. His World Bank report is out there. You can read it. So Africa is 1.9%. You can see likes of Venezuela, like of Latin America as in Western Europe at 9.1 default rate. But let me tell you, if a business heads out of Western Europe, it will still have a higher rating, because there's that cloud already on us, which is the reason why we then must be able to stand in the middle and do things even so we can quickly clear off all of those narratives, because it never used to be like this, so that we can always get all of those things back, have access to all of the high street bank. If you are coming to the West to do business now, you just say, oh, Africa, but usually we repay. And then we do a lot of things. So that is the reason why, as businesses that are coming up now, we need to start rewriting the narrative gradually, so we can run exactly that way. Then let's build it. So while someone in the West is not doing that, we have to do it just to commensurate with our prejudice. So once they raise the issue of risks and everything, then we present our credit rating. We present, okay, fine, that's more or less be like minus times plus or plus times minus, so it can then reduce the pressure of the toga of the risks. So when you are using, you are using Big 4, I'm using Big 4, okay, fine, at least let's cancel that. You are using this, I have this, then, so they begin to go, who is your auditor? So we just call somebody from, I said, no, we don't know. So at least Deloitte, I have this, I have that, and like that. So
in fact, in the boardroom, you don't say anything, you just slide the envelope across the table. They ask questions, you just slide the envelope.
So, yeah.
You know what? I'll tell you what I'm taking away from this conversation. Among many things, which thank you for your time and for sharing openly. I'm a proponent for the importance of narrative strategy, but design, ecosystem engagement as a practice, but also as a strategic priority for organizations, for leaders. And it's very easy to over-index in service of those very important things, particularly for Africa, where, as you've said, there's a massive narrative gap and a narrative deficit and maybe a systematic undermining of positive narratives, of constructive narratives about our potential economically. Sometimes it's easy to over-index on the importance of focusing on letting the narrative be delivering with excellence on fundamentals and making that as much a point of narrative and a differentiation point as we're as good as everyone else. We've got great ideas. Our culture is obviously dope and you guys want it. I think all of these things are helpful and obviously worth nurturing. But I think what I'm coming away with today in a new way, in a fresh way, thanks to you in this conversation, is that focus on fundamentals, not least because we have to make up for the tax on our effort because we're Africans and trying to do business as Africans, but also just because it is a really good way to navigate the world with integrity. That's what I'm coming away with.
Yeah, which is good. So it's a really good way. I'm telling, because case in point, when we went to for the first time when we're going to the capital market to do a commercial paper, as in almost, bring this document, why a tech company, we've not seen anybody, we're the first to ever do that in Nigeria. So why are you coming? What are the days? So we do a lot of education, we talk, we presented document, then they tested us. Then when they tested us, the market, we're able to raise the money. When we raise it, and by the way, you are coming to capital, you are raising money without collateral, which is a very big thing within the capital market. So you get that. Then the question is now that what I tell people when I was in banking is that when you get loans, your interest does not sleep on Saturday, does not sleep on Sunday. So you cannot be sleeping when your interest is not sleeping. So it gives us this sense that, fine, we have the access, we have to make this point. And then thanks to all my team, we all put our hands together, work night and they ensure that within the time frame, we even did an early repayment. So when it's time for us to repay the fund, we repaid. And then the market then had this huge confidence. Like the repayment that we had was one of the things that boosted the credit rating agency to approach us. We submitted our document. That's why they upgraded us.
Oh, wow. How long ago was that?
We did repayments like 4 months ago. Then they saw the hits and then they audited it, because credit rating, their eyes is on you all the time. So they did all the assessment within 3 months. After 3 months, then they called us for meeting. They look at every other thing again. And they told you that, okay, fine, at this point you're worth and 1 grade up notch, then, which was not the norm, because usually it takes you 24 months to have an upgrade. Then they look at, okay, fine, what you have put together, you have a very good case for us to upgrade you. So what I'm saying in essence is that it's a good way to run a business, not that because, we are Africa or anything. It's a good way to run a business so that you walk that path, and then so that you can scale the business properly and we can build a transgenerational wealth, so that we have businesses in Africa that move from one generation to another, because that pattern is already on ground. So we begin to build it like that. So if you build it, then we move that up. Not that because, it's Africa and there's a prejudice rating. No. If you build it that way, because I saw it in Access Bank, I saw the growth. Which is one of the things I say, okay, fine, you can't just be a founder and just jump out of uni and then you start founding anything. No. Go and subject yourself to a corporate structure. Learn something. Grow with them. Then when you come out, because I saw how Access Bank grew, and I saw all the things that was put in place, things that were done and everything, and the trajectory. Then I said, okay, fine, if I'm starting a business, I must do something.
A fintech / neobank.
Yes. That's your word. So a fintech like neobank, I must build something within this particular, and then what are they? And I saw how they build so much on soft work and on things that it's not necessary. You can't see her, but then just be pushing so much about profitability. We want to push about governance. What are we not doing right? Credit risks, all of those, and build up all of those risks model. So by the time, because getting to that level of profitability is the easiest thing. Sustaining it is very hard. But if you are going to sustain it, you have to sustain it with all of those structures you have built.
Yeah. Entrepreneurs often don't see the impact of succeeding and attracting the growth at scale that you've been playing for, which effectively tests your fundamentals.
If you have the fundamentals, once you have settled your fundamentals very well, building on it is an easy ride. But to build the fundamental is very tough. But once you build the fundamentals, you have your credit rating, you are supporting your structure, people are going to approach you. You'll be getting calls. You'll be getting funding. You'll be getting all of those things effortlessly. But once you build the fundamentals.
I would love to be a fly on the wall of your phone at the moment. But seriously, Seyi, Ebenezer, founder, co-founder, and CEO of Payaza. Hey, the village thanks you, man. This conversation, I think, is going to be very helpful to a lot of people. And thank you for your time. I look forward to catching up with you again.
All right.
I will give you some time for your momentum to come into full fruition. And then don't forget us. Don't forget us.
No.
Aliko's size.
Amen.
Don't forget.
Amen. And my parting conversation is because, like, I was sharing with my friends, I said, I'm passionate about this recently. And I really want us to have the way we have pubs, we have one central credit rating for African business. Yeah, to have it for African business so that we get the rate. So most of us, we fund whatever it is that we get from that rating. I, for once, okay, if somebody, let's say Andile and Co had a business and got a credit rating from a Central African business, once you present it and it's an investment grade, I invest in it. We start pushing our own narrative, start pushing our own conversation. We put money in it, not wait for probably international rating before. So once we have a local rating, start building up our own rating. And then that's going to boost our own market as well, because we are the next big thing. So it's going to boost our own market. We start developing our own local funding gradually, and then it's going to push a lot. So that's my current
Wait
passion.
a minute. Whoa, this is a very big PS here. So just let me understand this. Are you speaking as in hopeful manifestos terms here, or is this something you're willing to back, to put your money behind?
Yeah. I'm willing to put my... So as a matter of fact, so I've had a conversation with a few of my friends. So we are doing that currently. We're putting it together. As in just come together, a Nigerian, a Ghanaian, a Kenyan, a South African. We're just going to come up and then get that model so that we will not realize, because most of all of these big credit score agencies are built probably 200 or 400 years ago, some are 80 years, 90 years. And
of course, they acquire all the regional ones. It's effectively an oligopoly at this point.
Yeah, they keep acquiring. So what are we going to do for our own dispensation? Let us start something at the center that we will build it. It might take, if you started in 2025, by 2035 it's 10 years old. We've learned all the rope. So we'd rather start it and then begin to build. So it's a late process. So because that is where, no matter what it is, no matter what the ideation, no matter what the innovation, finance is still going to be at the center. And then risks is still going to be at the center of whatever anybody. Either you are manufacturing, you are innovator, you are construction, risks is at the center. And then who control the risks? It's credit rating period. If you are doing manufacturing, they will rate you. If you are doing engineering, they will rate you. If you are doing anything, they have their rating. So they are the center of whatever you do. So if something is at the center, we then begin to write our story at the center and then build something not necessary for fintech, not necessary for this. So for manufacturing, it could just come into place. They have to do bonds because they have to play with a long-term funding. So you have to start talking about your story now. So we have that center process where we begin to control this narrative. It's something that we should look at and delay. And I think you should lead it. I think you should lead the conversation. I think you should lead the conversation.
It's breaking news now.
Yeah, I think you should lead the conversation.
Do you know what?
You have access to all of us. You have access to everybody.
You make a compelling point.
You have access to me. You have access. I'm very sure you have access to GB. You have access to Tosin. You have access to almost everybody.
So here's the thing, though. You make a very compelling case, and that's very kind of you to say that on tape. But I would say this, too. On one hand, you've made such a profound case for the need for us to subject ourselves to like discipline and fundamentals, and that maybe a lot of entrepreneurs take for granted on one hand. On the other hand, you are also very aware of the systematic issues that make it difficult for even when you are doing the right thing to build on that momentum and to progress it as fast as you should. As you were talking earlier, I thought to myself, when you're busy trying to unlock some of this commercial paper, I'm sure it must have been really, on some level, difficult to watch other founders pursue a different course and grab the headlines for doing these massive raises and basically be painted as the future of fintech in Africa when you're here doing thankless work. And so I suppose that's also the tension, listening to you talk about these credit ratings. I suppose that I'm applying a similar outlook here. And I'm going, how much of the work needs to happen underground versus in plain sight where everything is happening? And I assume you're picking on me because you think this work needs to happen above ground.
Yeah. Because see, when, let's say, other founders are putting the funding, they are doing all that, what you said is actually 100% correct. Oh, you think, okay, this model, but if what really helped me and helped all of my colleagues where we looked at, okay, fine, if we believe in this vision, we cannot go with what we just see or what we just read. We must have something to back up whatever we do. And that's what we do at Payaza. If whatever idea you are bringing, okay, what is the fundamentals? What is backing up this thing? If you cannot justify it, so for instance, myself, only me cannot, as in, I can't take the full decision, final decision on anything. So we have committee, as in about 3 or 4. So we sign off on thing. All you need, I mean, 4 people is you need 3 years. So if you can get 3 years, then things can go. When we bring it back, should we go this? The pressure came, but we had to come back. Okay, you can have 2 years or 1 year. But going back to what I'm saying is that you as a person, you have access to almost everybody. It's at the top level that we have to take this thing, and we have to take it as now, because there's a lot of things happening within the system, within the world now. Everybody's looking at Africa, so I can go on and on. And then, you know, the interesting thing is that Africa is not showing. The fastest growing economy now is India across the world. Yeah, the fastest at 6 point something percent growing, followed by, let's say, Hong Kong, like that. So we are not joining all of this. And the reason why, we have fragmented different processes. So we are fragmented. So if someone like you at the center who have access to myself, who is a Nigerian, there's a GP is a Nigerian, you have access to Jones, who is a Ghanaian, you have access to Sitoyo, who is in Kenya, you have access to the Kope, all of those people. Then you sit down and say, guys, we need to form this thing. Probably under African Union. African Union, I remember they have APRM, African Peer Review, this thing, talking about. So we can do that under African Union. Same way what's called PAPS is doing excellent, what Afrexim is doing fantastic. So it can be under Afrexim. You have a conversation directly with Afrexim. Afrexim, I think we need to create this credit rating and everything. Once we have this, give us the structure. We model it, this is the structure, and then Afrexim, once anybody comes with an investment grade rating from this rating agency, I think we should have a sort of fund. Payaza, with profit, we can donate, as we can say, out of our retained earnings, we can have $500,000 or 500,000 within this fund. We have that. For business that have this rating, then this is the maximum we can disburse to this business. Then once we return, we keep growing it. Once we have that, they will be able to. Africa has grown very well, but there's no model at which you can use to measure it. So that's it. So people like you who are the media age, running the media, you are the only person that can control that narrative.
You think that because it would be difficult to be in the market?
I know. So we just do the work. We will just do the work. If I'm the one leading it, someone will think, probably he wants to have access to another fund. But you are an independent. You stay, then bring everybody. I might have my differences with somebody from Kenya, from Ghana, but you are at the center. Then you bring everybody together. You present.
I like you all the same.
Yeah.
I want everyone to win.
Everyone. So you present it to Afrexim, and then Afrexim have this, and then we sit down, and then we don't want all of those funding that everybody doesn't have access to. If you're on Instagram, and the way the credit rating process for Africa have to be different, because Africa is a community based. You can't use the same requirement that you're using, let's say West or anything, to rate an African business. And Africa, for instance, within, and let's say you're from, let's say, Eastern Cape, or you're from Joburg, if I report you to your uncle, and Dele is owing me, and your uncle calls you, you rather pay faster and then resolve it because you don't want to soil your family name. Despite the fact that you even have security, you might have collateral doing all of this, but you might not be willing to. So Africa is just a community based. So all of those conditions, all of those parameters will be included in our credit rating process. So we have to have a credit rating that speaks to our narrative. Let me give you this instance. There was a time I was doing the research on those guys that sells on Instagram, those people that sells on Facebook within Nigerian market. And we then launch a particular product. We call it SME Tribe. We launch a product, and then the storyline we told them is that, remember there was a time that Instagram was down for almost about 6 or 7 days, or all of those things, they were down. And your source of livelihood 100% depend on Instagram and everything. Or they shut down your Instagram, they collected your page. How are you going to be selling? Then that's why we move people that the way you have your item on Instagram and everything, we put them together. We call it SME Tribe. We created a marketplace for them on the web that you can be selling the way you can mirror what you have on Instagram, mirror it on the web. We bring those people together. We reinforce their collection. So when we reinforce their collection is that they do all of their collection with us. Then what we now do for them is that we look at their 3 months average collection. We give them 25% of it uncollateralize that, use it to go and restock, and then paper. That model, none of them will have 0 NPL on that thing. We call it Payaza Boost. That's the name of the product. We call it Payaza Boost. So just to help them that if you do your 3-month average, 25% of it, there's likelihood that you will not run away with that. And then we've been building all of those. They are selling within their web and they are making their fund back. So if you are going to do a credit rating or credit appraisal for such a person,
you can't use the same metrics you would use to someone in Sheffield, UK.
You can't use same metric to use, who's your board of director, where's your committee, where's your... No. Which is what I'm saying, that the rating agency that speaks to Africa, we've been able to do this because we went through that corporate structure. So that when we get through the corporate structure, our own responsibility is now we need to go and create, having understanding of that process, we now need to go and create a structure that speaks to who we are as a person. There's another thing. I go to US or go to MIT to go and school. Once I get to the place, I understand what is happening there. Then I come back home to come and internalize and tell, okay, fine. What these guys are calling, in US, you have a way of presenting yourself. In UK, okay, let me use this as an accent. There's a US accent, there's a UK accent, there's a Nigerian accent, there's a Ghanaian accent. So we now need to speak our own accent, our business accent.
As you had been talking, I'm contending with a deeply ingrained, and it's awkward to admit, a deeply ingrained inferiority complex on 2 levels. One, hearing something like this from someone like you, given how you've navigated these issues on a global stage. And then I think there's something every African needs to challenge in their own minds, that there's a better way to do things. And it's encouraging to see someone like you in your position, not just be okay with how well it's going for you. It's also a pragmatism, perhaps, of looking forward to a time when you will one day be Mr. Dangote's age and struggle to get a visa to certain countries, even though you're the wealthiest man in the continent. And you're probably thinking you don't want those similar dynamics to be in play, not just on visas, but on access to finance or on downgrades for no apparent reason and things of that nature. And I suppose internally, I'm also realizing it's important for me to receive that I might be part of a potential solution. I haven't fully thought about it, but it almost seems absurd.
You're a solution. You're a solution.
I'm just having a conversation.
African Tech Roundup, as in Roundup is a huge one, is a cycle. So Roundup, so they can put everybody. You are sitting at the center.
And Seyi is the inside the circle also.
Inside the circle, so you have a lot of people, so you are the right person to do this job.
That's fantastic. Seyi, listen, we can keep going, but we have to stop. I can see the sun coming up there in your New York skyline, and it's been a real pleasure. I'm challenged, but also humbled by you putting me on the spot like this, but also mostly grateful for everything you've shared with the village on this pod. So thanks again for being on the African Tech Roundup, man.
Thank you. You're welcome.